Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Bible study from headquarters. So now we come to John chapter 11. Let's begin reading in verse 1. Now a certain man was sick named Lazarus of Bethany, the town of Mary and her sister Martha. Now Bethany is an interesting place. A lot of activity took place in Bethany during the time of Jesus Christ. And a lot of that activity had to do with Mary and Martha and Lazarus and their house and home there in Bethany. It was kind of a gathering place. Verse 2, it was that Mary which anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. Therefore his sister sent unto him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom you love is sick. And he did love this family. He loves everybody. But he had a special attachment to this family, Lazarus and Mary and Martha. He whom you love is sick. Verse 4. When Jesus heard that, he said, This sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God might be glorified thereby. So you see, here was another case where there was even a sickness and a death, and God allowed it to happen so that Jesus Christ could be glorified by the way he handled it. Verse 5. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. He loved them. He ate with them. He spent time with them. It was a comforting home to go to for him. When he had heard, therefore, that he was sick, he abode 2 days still in the same place where he was. Then after that said he to his disciples, Let's go into Judea again. His disciples say unto him, Master, the Jews of late sought to stone you, and go thou there again? We just got out of there with our lives. Now we're going back? They were trying to stone you. Now you're going to go back in there? And Jesus answered, Are there not 12 hours in the day? If any man walk in the day, he stumbles not, because he sees the light of this world. But if a man walk in the night, he stumbles, because there is no light in him. And so he had work to do, and he had to go there while he could do it, and while the time was still there for him to do it. And he came to be a light of the world. And so he was just telling them, time is of the essence. I need to go back in there, and I've got things to do. Now, some people, they'll look at this and they'll try to explain 3 days and 3 nights by saying, see, there you go. He said 12 hours in the day. Well, that's the daylight part of the day. But the Bible plainly shows that a day consists of day and night, 24 hours. And it said Jonah was in the whale's belly 3 days and 3 nights, making up a 24-hour day. Christ was in the grave 3 days and 3 nights, each day being a 24-hour day, 3 of them being 72 hours for Jonah. Now let's go over here to Genesis just to show what I'm talking about. Genesis chapter 1 and verse 5. What does it say? And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So 12 hours in the day, light part, and 12 hours in the night, dark part. But what does it say here? And the evening and the morning were the first day. So the light part and the night part add up to a complete 24-hour day, and that's what he was talking about here. The Bible makes that plain. It doesn't divide up a 24-hour day into 2 days. One part of it is 12 hours and the other part is 12 hours, and that makes 2 days. No. It's 1 day made up of night and day. That's what the Bible makes plain. But he's saying here, I've got time to work while it is day, so I got to go do it, because the time is coming when it'll be night. In other words, darkness will set in when I'm gone, and I won't be able to go do what I need to do. And so I'm going to do it while I can. Verse 11, These things said he, and after that he said unto them, Our friend Lazarus sleeps, but I go that I may awake him out of sleep. Our friend. We can be his friend. He can be our friend. He wants to. He says he is. And when he says here, Lazarus sleeps, it was commonly referred to, death was commonly referred to as sleep. Some people still refer to it as sleep. Death is a pause until we're resurrected to eternal life. And then some people try to make a doctrine out of that, and they call it death sleep or something. No, when you're dead, you're dead. You're not just taking a nap, you're dead. And so when he referred to it as sleep here, it was just kind of a general description of temporary death. He was going to resurrect him. And death is like sleeping. A person doesn't feel any pain. A person has no awareness. The dead know not anything. But it's not just a common time of sleep. It's death. And then comes the resurrection. But he described it as sleep here in the sense of, he's there, he's sleeping, but I'm going to go wake him up. I'm going to go raise him up. But he was obviously dead, not just sleeping in the sense of regular physical sleep. Then said his disciples, Lord, if he sleep, he shall do well. Howbeit Jesus spoke of his death and described it as a sleep. But they thought that he had spoken of taking of rest in sleep. So that clarifies it. Now notice, he nails it down right here for those who try to twist this. Then said Jesus unto them plainly, Lazarus is dead. And I am glad for your sakes that I was not there, to the intent you may believe. Nevertheless, let us go unto him. Then said Thomas, which is called Didymus, unto his fellow disciples, let us also go, that we may die with him. Well, if it's happening with Lazarus, maybe it'll happen to us, and then we'll all be together. Now, what does that mean here, Didymus? If you read that, do you wonder about it? I do. Thomas, which is called Didymus, what does that mean? If you look it up, you'll see it just means the twin. That's all it means. Didymus means the twin. He was a twin. He either had a sister or brother in the same house, same family, born at the same time. He was a twin. That's what it means. Verse 17, Then when Jesus came, he found that he had lain in the grave 4 days already. Now Bethany was near unto Jerusalem, about 15 furlongs. Bethany is a little village. On one side is the Mount of Olives. When you go to the Mount of Olives, you'll see on one side of the Mount of Olives is Bethany, and on the other side of the Mount of Olives is the Garden of Gethsemane next to Jerusalem. So you stand on the Mount of Olives, you can look in one direction, and down there you'll see a little village called Bethany. You look in another direction, and you'll see the Garden of the Gethsemane, and on the other side of that, you'll see Jerusalem. It's all in there real close. In fact, Bethany is about roughly 2 miles from Jerusalem, just up over the Mount of Olives, and then you're there at that little village called Bethany. It's not like it was during the time of Christ, but you can find the location where it was during that time. So about 2 miles, a little bit less, from Jerusalem, on one side of the Mount of Olives, on the other side of the Mount of Olives, from the Garden of Gethsemane and Jerusalem. Verse 19, And many of the Jews came to Martha and Mary to comfort them concerning their brother, and their home was in Bethany, and that's where this all took place. Then Martha, as soon as she heard that Jesus was coming, went and met him, but Mary sat still in the house. Then said Martha unto Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother had not died. But I know that even now, whatsoever you will ask of God, God will give it to you. And Jesus said unto her, Your brother will rise again. He's going to be raised from the dead. And Martha said unto him, I know that he shall rise again in the resurrection at the last day. And Jesus said unto her, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believes in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Believest thou this? And that is the way it is when it comes to the resurrection to life. And so he said, well, that's true, but I'm going to raise him now. That's what he was meaning. Verse 27, she said unto him, Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, which should come into the world. And when she had so said, she went her way and called Mary her sister secretly, saying, The Master is come and calls for you. And as soon as she heard that, she arose quickly and came unto him. Now Jesus was not yet come into the town, but was in that place where Martha met him. The Jews then, which were with her in the house, and comforted her, when they saw Mary, that she rose up hastily and went out, followed her, saying, She goes unto the grave to weep there. Then when Mary was come where Jesus was and saw him, she fell down at his feet, saying unto him, Lord, if you had been here, my brother had not died. When Jesus therefore saw her weeping, and the Jews also weeping which came with her, he groaned in the spirit and was troubled. And he said, Where have you laid him? And they said unto him, Lord, come and see. And Jesus wept. That's the shortest verse in the Bible, Jesus wept. And of course people say, well, he was crying because of Lazarus' death and all the sorrow that was around him. And that might have been part of it, but mainly he was so sad to see that after all that he had done and after all that he had taught, their faith was still so weak, so weak. Then said the Jews, Behold, how he loved him. And some of them said, Could not this man which opened the eyes of the blind have caused that even this man should not have died? Why is he crying? Well, he was really so sad because of their weak faith, and sad to see them sad. Jesus therefore, again groaning in himself, comes to the grave. It was a cave, and a stone lay upon it. Jesus said, Take you away the stone. Martha, the sister of him that was dead, said unto him, Lord, by this time he stinks, for he's been dead 4 days. And Jesus said unto her, Said I not unto you that if you would believe, you should see the glory of God? Why are you so weak in faith? Makes me so sad. And he even wept about that. Didn't I tell you what I would do? Didn't I tell you what I could do? Didn't I say, if you believed, you'll see the glory of God? Why haven't you noticed all of this and all the time I've been around you? I'm so sad to see that you're so full of doubt. Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead was laid, and Jesus lifted up his eyes and says, Father, I thank you that you have heard me. And I knew that you heard me always, but because of the people which stand by, I said it, that they may believe that you have sent me. So this was all done once again as a part of the work of God, to teach others who Jesus Christ was and the power and glory that he had, and that the Father was with him. It was a part of doing the work, this miracle of raising Lazarus. Verse 43, And when he thus had spoken, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. Commanded it with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he that was dead came forth, bound hand and foot with grave cloths, and his face was bound about with a napkin, wrapped with a cloth. And Jesus said unto them, Loose him, and let him go. Then many of the Jews which came to Mary and had seen these things which Jesus did, believed on him. But some of them went their ways to the Pharisees, and told them what things Jesus had done. Then gathered the chief priests and the Pharisees a council, and said, What do we? For this man does many miracles. So now what excuse do they have? What excuse? They keep contradicting him. They keep accusing him. They keep disputing what he says and dismissing what he does. But he keeps on speaking the truth, keeps on performing miracles, and finally they come to the point to where they even have to admit, For this man does many miracles. Well, you would think that they would say, We better listen to him. We better look to him. We better respect him. We better learn from him. He's not just any ordinary human being. This man is performing miracles that only God could perform. Why didn't they take that attitude? Well, their mind wasn't open yet, but also maybe one of the reasons why their mind wasn't open yet is because of their vanity and pride and hardness of heart. They wanted the power. They wanted the position. They wanted the people to look to them instead of looking to Christ. Verse 48, If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him, and the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation. And there you are, verse 48. That's why they would never agree to what he said and never submit to him and never glorify him. There it is. It's all summed up right there in verse 48. If we let him keep on doing this, if we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him, and the Romans will come and take away both our place and nation. We'll lose all we have and all of our power because of this man. We can't do that. We can't allow that to happen. Verse 49, and one of them named Caiaphas, being the high priest that same year, said unto them, you know nothing at all. You're all just ignorant. You know nothing at all, nor consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not. And thus spake he not of himself, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus should die for that nation. Now, he said some things here that even he didn't understand. Maybe saw a little bit of it, but he didn't fully understand it, but he said it anyway, and God saw to it that he said it. And probably he didn't even know how quickly what he said would actually take place, but he said it. So even one of them said some things that should have caught their attention. Verse 52, and not for that nation only, but that also he should gather together in one the children of God that were scattered abroad. So Caiaphas had some things right here, but he didn't do what was right. And so they were witnessed to, even by Caiaphas, with some truth here that I'm sure God inspired him to say for that particular time and for those particular people as a witness to them. Then from that day forth they took counsel together for to put him to death. And for what? Why did they want to put him to death? What had he done? Think about it. What had Jesus Christ done that merited them conspiring and plotting to put him to death? He'd done nothing but good things, and he had spoken nothing but good words. And yet because they felt threatened and that they were afraid they'd lose their prestige, their power, their position, they came together to get rid of him, to arrest him, and to falsely accuse him, and to kill him or have him killed. They threatened to stone him. They threatened to kill him in more than one situation. Now here they go trying to figure out how they can finally get it done. Verse 53, then from that day forth they took counsel together, plotted for to put him to death. Verse 54, Jesus therefore walked no more openly among the Jews, but went thence into a country near to the wilderness, into a city called Ephraim, and there continued with his disciples. Now, where is this city Ephraim? It's on a hill about 10 to 12 miles north of Jerusalem, out in the wilderness in the sense of it being kind of a desolate place. And so that's where he went, and there he continued with his disciples, because the Jews were plotting continually on how they could take him and put him to death. Verse 55, and the Jews' Passover was near at hand. You see, there are several things happened here as we go through. John 7, we talked about the Feast of Tabernacles, which was in the fall. And then we talked about the national holiday called the Feast of Dedication, which was in December. And now we have come to the spring when it's time for the Passover. So you can kind of follow a timeline here in which all these activities took place. It's kind of interesting if you take time to do that. We could just kind of read through here and point out things, but I like to, as we're studying through here, I like to point out certain signposts along the way that make things even more real and more clear and more relative, and you can kind of get a better picture that way. So now the Jews' Passover, verse 55, was near at hand, and many went out of the country up to Jerusalem before the Passover to purify themselves. Then sought they for Jesus, and spoke among themselves as they stood in the temple, what think you, that he will not come to the feast? They knew he'd come to the feast. See, they knew Jesus Christ obeyed the law. They knew he kept the Sabbath. They knew he kept the Feast of Tabernacles. They knew he kept the Passover. And they thought, that's where we'll catch him. We'll catch him when he comes up to keep the Passover, because he'll certainly keep the Passover. So we'll wait for him there in the temple, and we'll grab him then. Then sought they for Jesus, and spoke among themselves, verse 56, as they stood in the temple, what think you, that he will not come to the feast? Now both the chief priests and the Pharisees had given a commandment, that if any man knew where he were, he should show it, that they might take him, that they might seize him. They told people, the chief priests and Pharisees, be on the lookout for him. If you know where he is, you tell us, so we can go capture him and seize him and arrest him and take care of him, and then we can get rid of him. That was the plot. And it was widespread and it was all pervasive, but of course the Father was taking care of him, the angels were there, and Jesus Christ knew where to go and where to stay and who to be around in order to keep on doing the work until the time came for him to be seized and crucified. As you can see, this book of John is just alive with interest and with knowledge and with tremendous wisdom and practical instructions, history, tremendous points of knowledge about the life of Jesus Christ, what he did, where he was when he did it, and all of that. You know, when people say, well, Jesus Christ was just another man and a myth, and the Bible is just a writing by a man, how could John write all these things we've just been reading here? And why would he bother to write all these things we've just been reading here? Why would he write? Well, he went up to Ephraim. And why would he write? Well, he went over to Bethany. I mean, God is the one who inspired this book so that John would write all these things. And God is the one who protected and inspired and glorified his Son, Jesus Christ, on this earth so that he could do all these things we've been reading about here, these miracles. And if anybody is really honest and has integrity and loves the truth, then you will know that what we've been studying here is inspired of God. It is the truth, and it will lead us into the abundant life now and eternal life later. What a blessing to know these things, brethren. Well, we'll stop there. So that brings us down to John chapter 12. We'll pick it up there next time. This is Charles Bryce with the Enduring Church of God.